Info with Ash. Da 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 da. Hi guys, welcome back. Thank you for joining me once again with Info with Ash. Today's topic is communication as an idea. Sounds good, doesn't it? I thought so. That's why we're talking about it. It's basically talking about communication as a perfect personified being, and we're gonna talk a little bit about a communication theory known as identity management theory, and this is going further into understanding what communication is, how it affects the relationships we have, and a very big problem in today's society is a breakdown in miscommunication and how we talk to one another that causes just rifts in relationships, anger, distrust, and it causes us to be angry, and then anger causes us to do stuff that we probably shouldn't do. So just making the connection between all of that. So first I want to give you this verse. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So if the Word is God, and word is how we communicate, God is communication. Naturally, we can make that connection. And also, even in our nonverbal communication, prime example, if I rub my tummy, or, well, first, let's start there. If I rub my tummy, I could be saying I am hungry. So there are actual words that can translate the gesture. So even in nonverbal communication, in the ways we learn to communicate, as a baby who cries, it could be she's sleepy, or he's sleepy, or hungry, or just upset, wants some attention, wants to be held. All of those nonverbal things can be translated with words. So, making the connection there for you. Communication as an idea in its perfect personified form. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. When communicators come together, the very first thing that they have to do is identify one another. They're going to ask certain questions. Do I know this person? Is it safe to approach them, to communicate with them? Humans are equipped with this sixth sense, this instinct to know immediately, within seconds, instantaneously, if it's okay, if it's safe, because we naturally go into self-preservation. In any sign of danger, we're hesitant, we're cautious when we approach something that's unfamiliar to us. Through Amari's and Capace's theory, it's in conjunction with Burgoon, Guerrero, and Manzov's perspective of this theory. I hope to take a look at this idea today to answer some of you guys' questions, and also to answer some for myself, because I think it's a great topic and something that needs to be discussed. And maybe if we could learn a better way to communicate with others, then we could stop some of these rifts in relationships where we don't talk to our mothers or our fathers or our siblings, or, best friends that we've had 14-year friendships with. And because of one fight, one huge blowout, we never speak again, or the relationship is just never the same. We are a society who are very big on trust. Even the semblance of trust, we're good if we think we can trust you, which is not a good thing. But if you think about it, it doesn't take much. As long as I feel safe and I know you got my back and I got your back, we're good a lot of times. But looking at all of this and understanding, answering these questions, it's a way to aid our society so that we're not stuck where we are now, and we can get better as we have to and should and will inevitably adapt as time moves on and as we evolve as people and as we learn new and more and better ways to do things, we need to start with our communication. Just a breakdown to better understand the theory. It's the way we influence how people view us. We show altered sides of ourselves. I think sometimes it can be an unconscious thing to want to impress people and not show them certain things about ourselves that we may think will be perceived as negative. If I have a stutter or something that I'm subconscious or have a certain insecurity about, I'm going to try and hide that and cover it up when I'm communicating with someone so that they don't immediately have a negative image or impression of me, so that I can move forward our relationship or what I need from them, what I'm trying to gain from even entering into that communication in the first place. The notion of several selves. One, we have our perceived self, which is how we believe we are reflected when we look at in the mirror. It's what I actually believe I am as a person, my identity, the definition of me. And then you have the presenting self, the public self, which is what the world sees when they look at you. When the world is your mirror, when the people you have your networking groups with, your co-workers, your family, your friends, all of those people, what they see, what they reflect back to you, that's the presenting self, the public self. These multiple identities we create for certain situations: the work, the home, dating, public, and then there's the true identity. Now, sometimes the true identity might not differ from these other ones. Um, a word that we use in my generation and the generation before me, kind of, sort of, and now we're getting away from this word, but the word fake, saying that we are not honest and we're manipulative in how we act and how we present ourselves to people when we don't truly show them who we are. But we all have motives for doing the things that we do, right? So we want to impress people. We want to be accepted. The socially accepted image of ourselves is probably what we're going to portray to the world so that we get the best response in return. How do we do this? With our mannerisms, our words, both, verbally and non-verbally, our tone of voice, our eye contact, our appearance, the clothes we wear, the jewelry we wear, the setting. If we're going on a blind date or we have to meet someone for a study group or for whatever reason, whatever a meeting is, maybe it's a business meeting and I'm trying to get you to invest in something that I believe strongly about. And I know certain things about you. Maybe you like flowers. So maybe we want to meet at the botanical gardens. So I can have you in a great setting where you're in a great mood, you like the scenery, and you're in a mood to receive what I'm giving and give me back what I'm trying to get back. Uh, all of this to say, we have to understand who we are as people and what our true identity is. We have to stop basing so much of who we are on what others say we should be. Be happy with who Ashley is. Be happy with who you are, regardless of the risks involved, regardless of the negative feedback that you might get, because the reward, the flip side of that, of being your true self, is a far greater thing than having to live a life where you're reflecting something that is not you. When you look in a mirror and it's not what you see and you're showing that to the world, that's the ugly version of yourself. So understanding identity management is hard, but we use these tools to better ourselves so that we can continue to evolve and be better as people. I think I'm running out of time, guys. Thank you so much again for being with me. Info with Ash. I'll catch you next week with a new topic. Be blessed And remember, be yourself. Be true to who you are and the true definition of you. Thank you guys. Catch you later.